Last thing I remember, we were in that nightclub watching a girl sing selections from Verdi's Nabucco, while two men from the audience removed her G-string with their teeth.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Jonathan Creek podcast, where we have been to a nightclub watching a rendition of Verdi's Nabucco, but that's about as far, I think, as a comparison goes.
Have you been to many Verdi-themed nightclubs?
One or none.
Yeah, it's not common, I wouldn't have thought.
No, very old-fashioned view of a nightclub. Perhaps.
Yeah, does he actually just mean a sort of gentleman's club maybe, or some kind of private event maybe?
No, we're more likely to be removing G-strings than listening to Verdi at nightclubs. Speak for yourself.
What underwear you wear is your own decision. I'm making no comment.
Let's just move on. How are you?
I'm fine today. How are you, Gerry?
Splendid.
Splendid.
Yeah.
Splendiferous.
Fun episode this week. Intriguing. Nice bit of mystery. And I thought, I don't know about you, but there was a great use of sound and music throughout this.
Yeah, which is appropriate given the name of the episode.
Of course. But it certainly did create some atmosphere for me.
Absolutely. It feels like it should have been on the television at Halloween.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't subtle.
Yeah.
But it was appropriate and enjoyable.
We should save the reveal for when it was on television until the very end.
We'll do that, I think.
Because it's at the bottom of your notes.
Can't be bothered scrolling down. Well, without further ado this week, I think, Ian, we shall just begin.
Sure, why not? In the traditional manner.
Summary?
Yes.
Crack on.
In Danse Macabre, Maddy and Jonathan investigate another apparently vanishing killer when a horror writer is slain on Halloween by an unidentified skeleton. With a local vicar directly involved, is it finally time for Jonathan to admit that miracles can happen? Or is the awful truth about to leave this vicarage on very shaky moral ground?
A warm open this week.
Yeah, we've not had that before. I noted that.
Is that the first time?
It's the first time it's gone to credits at the start, I think. Because previously we've had credits over the...
Even the first episode?
Ooh. No, I think all the previous episodes opened with footage.
Okay. Where do we begin?
Maddy's house.
Yes, her flat. A less than fresh-looking Maddy is temporarily woken by an alarm clock, a radio, and a ringing phone.
Yep, there's a recorded message of herself banging saucepan lids. It reminded me of myself trying to get up for work every morning.
And do you also have a half-eaten chocolate bar lying by your bedside?
Not usually. I can't go to bed without brushing my teeth. But
Yeah.
I do set about 6 alarms. In fact, 6 on my phone and 2 on my alarm clock every night I go to bed.
After she gets herself up, the door goes. In fact, is that what causes her to get out of bed?
Well, I think she's basically got out of bed to turn off the tape with the saucepans, and as she stumbles to her feet, the doorbell rings.
She opens it to a eerily mysterious vicar
Stephen Claythorne.
and believes that she is a collector of mysteries.
He does. He looks like the sort of man who knows a bit about mysteries.
Yeah, I like that introduction. It was nice. In fact, his whole performance here is fun to watch.
Yeah.
She's a bit befuddled, and he does not wait to be asked in. He enters to tell his tale about murder.
This part wouldn't work nowadays.
Why?
She'd already know about the murder from Twitter. You're not going to get a murder from the previous day that had a whole lot of police involvement, a famous death. It would be public information.
Yeah. So this murder took place at his house the previous evening, and the killer then apparently evaporated into thin air in front of everyone's eyes. What a great organ soundtrack we've got here.
It's very atmospheric. And he says the line, I think might be my favourite from this episode, "Some miracles you don't want to believe in." It was an interesting line,
Sure.
given his employment.
I assume you recognised Stephen Claythorne immediately.
Yes.
Born in 1951. He was the 5th Doctor Who from 1981 to 84. And I think he reprised it for a...
I should say his name.
Did I not say his name?
No.
Peter Davison.
Yes.
So he spent also 12 years starring in All Creatures Great and Small. So he's got 2 very famous roles, certainly in the UK. As well as both those shows, he has been in At Home with the Braithwaites, Black Beauty, Law and Order UK, Sherlock, Distant Shores, The Last Detective, Campion, and Magnum. He is also the father of Georgia Tennant, who herself has starred in Doctor Who, The Bill, Casualty in Hobie City, and is married to David Tennant.
Yeah, she was in Doctor Who as well.
That's what I said.
Did you say Doctor Who?
Yes.
Oh, she was definitely in that. So was he.
Who?
David Tennant.
Was he?
Yeah.
Really? Small part?
Yes.
Good.
Played Casanova or something like that.
You weren't a big Doctor Who fan, were you?
No, I never watched. I've seen it more recently since David Tennant's been in it, but not before that.
Okay. Anyway, a clearly intrigued Maddy noisily puts on some coffee. I thought that was a nice touch as well.
Yeah, she interrupts because obviously Stephen is telling his story here, and she just shows no regard and makes her coffee anyway. She's not interested in the context, really.
So he's talking about his mother-in-law, and he's referring to his wife. And I think he's saying that she's the gentlest woman you met. And at this point, that's when she sticks on the coffee machine.
She doesn't care about the wife.
No. What he's doing is laying the groundwork for what went on to occur that night.
I never knew Lorna's father. He died in his 30s. When her mother remarried, an American hairstylist named Tom Teresi, they moved to California. We barely saw them from one year to the next. Till one morning a couple of weeks ago, we found ourselves with 3 house guests at the rectory. Emma, Tom, and this Minder character of theirs, Mr. Drucker. I won't say we got on like a house on fire. For the most part, I avoided her company, which wasn't hard. Our parish is small, but the demands it makes on my time are considerable.
Your God is no more a reality than the tooth fairy we believed in as children.
You excuse me, I have some work to catch up on.
The only gods that exist are ourselves. We are the gods of our own.
Thus my absence last night, of all nights. All Hallows Eve. I'd been summoned to the bishops for a little diocesan pep talk. Lorna, her mother and stepfather were returning home from a costume party and dance at Meppersley Manor, about 10 miles down the road. It was just gone midnight.
I have to say, his reference to a secret clergy meeting on Halloween, that sounds like they're going out vampire hunting, doesn't it?
It does.
They're gathering their crosses. They're going out to save the world.
The mother-in-law wasn't a likeable person. No matter what you believe in terms of religion, you don't just invite yourself to someone's house and then insult what their beliefs are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's rude.
Yeah.
It maybe she's trying to provoke some kind of discussion, but it didn't sound like she was open to other people's views.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with her views.
No, but that's not the point. Yeah, she's come to this man's house and essentially mocked him and his entire life's work. And by extension, her daughter, who spent her life married to this guy.
And his afterlife's work as well.
Perhaps, yeah.
So we continue this flashback. We're in the car. We see a costumed Emma, who is the mother-in-law, Lorna, the wife, and Tom, the husband of Emma. They're being driven home early from a party by Drucker, the bodyguard.
They are. Emma's complaining of a severe headache.
Yes. And through a fork of lightning, she notes a very scary-looking man standing in the bushes as they drive past.
The reaction was somewhat muted, I felt, given the level of surprise they must have felt.
Very much so. I thought very relaxed when you consider the sight.
A creepy, sort of Charles Manson-looking stalker who's followed you from California to England, rural England, and is standing in your driveway in a lightning storm.
Yeah, I think she suggests he's just some sort of hardcore fan who she recognises from home, but no, you'd be jumping out your skin.
Absolutely.
Calling the police immediately.
Yes. He also reminded me a bit of the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yep, and The Undertaker.
Yes.
At the manse, before retiring for the night, this is still via flashback, Emma gets Tom to take a group picture with Lorna dressed as a witch, herself as the Bride of Frankenstein, and Tom wearing a skeleton suit, including a mask.
Yeah, it's Drucker that's taking the picture.
While we're here, Emma Lazarus was played by Meg Davis. Not a huge on-screen career. She starred in The Bill, Van der Valk, Doctor and Crown Court, but perhaps she was a theatrical actress or actor as opposed to a screen.
Perhaps.
Or she just retired.
Maybe she wrote horror novels. That happened in Columbo, wasn't it? They got a novelist in to play a novelist.
Mm-hmm. Mickey Spillane.
That's the one. While they're taking this picture, the drama is cranked up a notch as the patio doors blow open behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom closes them.
Drucker advises that they check every entrance that night as we see the fan creep closer outside.
It's a sort of obligatory POV shot. The show's becoming known for, or at least as far as I can tell, it seems like almost every episode has one of these for reasons or none.
Yeah, I think we look out for them now.
Yeah.
We see Drucker drive the car into the garage, and then Emma removing her makeup. And at this point, the skeleton, he walks ominously up the stairs in a sort of Michael Myers gate.
I think the last time we saw Tom, he had the mask up on the top of his head. So the fact that the mask is now over the face, and there would be no reason for Tom to do that, suggests, oh, maybe this isn't Tom after all.
In the mirror, she sees the figure and seems to realise something is not right. And she turns to face the skeleton, and what happens?
The skeleton shoots her.
That's it, yeah. Dead.
Yeah.
Lorna runs up to see the body lying on the floor facing away from her, before she herself is grabbed by the skeleton as Drucker appears at the bottom of the stairs.
The skeleton demands that Drucker drops his gun, and as Lorna attempts to escape from him, pulls her back and knocks her out with the butt of the gun.
It makes this demand via what medium?
Voice.
Yeah, distorted voice.
Yeah, there's some sort of electronic or other device either in the mask or being used that distorts the voice.
Yeah, that's always a clue in a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Because you immediately know either the victims in it would have recognised the voice, or you yourself as a viewer would recognise it.
Yeah.
If it was a crazed fan, then he would have no reason to disguise his voice. So yeah, Lorna is knocked out, and the masked figure orders Drucker to bring the car to the door with the keys in the ignition, and a groggy Tom stumbles through, rubbing his head to see Drucker scupper the skeleton's plan. How?
Well, first of all, Drucker, when he goes to the garage, he uses the car phone to make a call, assuming that's to the police. And then, as the skeleton goes to get in the car, Drucker shoots out the tyres.
So that's cut off his route to escape, his plan.
A little bit of trivia here.
Okay.
Apparently, it's very short. Apparently, around this time, you hear the skeleton make sort of a grunt or a growl, and that was David Rennick's Creek debut.
Okay, we'll give you some more trivia.
Sure.
David Rennick, this isn't his debut.
Is it not?
No.
What did he do before?
He plays the distorted voice.
Does he?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Well, I'm not sure. I've read it. I can't prove it.
Oh, okay.
So he's already had his appearance a few moments ago.
I wonder whose information is closer to the truth.
Maybe someone will let us know.
Yeah.
Maybe Alan Davis will let us know.
Or David Rennick, he'll get hold of this. Anyhow, Tom and Drucker are watching this killer carry Lorna into the garage.
Yeah, he's got nowhere else to go. He's a trapped animal.
Well, he could drop her and run, but Drucker's got his gun at this point, so he's in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, so he backs in to the garage and the door closes. And after about 15 minutes, the building has been surrounded.
Yeah, we get a voiceover here from Stephen in the present day talking to Maddy, where he explains they assumed at this point that the skeleton's going to negotiate his exit, but it all went very quiet.
So after some time has passed, they open the door, and to their amazement, the skeleton had vanished.
Yeah, it's just Lorna lying on the ground.
She's alone and seems okay physically.
Yeah, she's unharmed, it seems.
Now we can see at this point, back in the present day, Maddy is hooked and will already be considering the person who can explain the unexplainable, I think.
I would think so. In fact, she makes the call almost immediately, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
But Jonathan's not impressed.
He's not, but he's not at the windmill.
No, he's not. So I think that's a mobile phone he's got.
Must be. We are in fact at a very grand looking house which we discover is Adam Klaus's.
Yes.
Jonathan himself, much like Maddy, also looked as if he had a late night as he's awoken by this phone call.
Absolutely. But regardless, he is unimpressed. He thinks it's a stupid story, essentially. He doesn't believe it. He tells her to get rid of the guy and hangs up on her.
Yeah, he even suggests that the clergyman might not be real. And I like this line. He advises her not to pray on her knees with her eyes shut.
She pretends the call hasn't ended at this stage to kind of cover herself, and then refers to Jonathan when she talks to Stephen as a sad character who's just an ideas man to a conjurer. And then she makes a bizarre comment.
Yeah, that's a nice little bit. She's going to get ready, get changed, and she offers Claythorne a nibble whilst she is in the shower. And what happens? There's a visual joke here.
Well, she's kind of removing her dressing gown, and then the toast pops up. It's a bit of a weird scenario. You wouldn't really be letting a stranger sit and feed themselves in your kitchen while you're giving a shower, are you?
You wouldn't, but I suppose if you do believe he is a vicar, then you would be more inclined to trust them. But these days, I wouldn't be trusting anyone. I wouldn't be trusting, well, even if he was a vicar, I wouldn't trust a vicar or any...
No, and there's no real reason for him to wait. Why does he not just go and arrange to meet later?
Yeah.
She's got a car.
Maybe she just feels that she has to be hospitable.
Maybe.
Back to Klaus's house. There's another POV shot as Jonathan wanders into the hall to meet Adam. Now, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. Has he done something with his hair?
It's like he's got a completely different pattern of baldness.
Yeah, and we get a taste of what they were both up to the previous night. I think we heard that.
Up at the top of the show, the arias and the G-strings. Now,
that's quite a risky little episode. As well as the G-string references, we get some side boob.
A bit of brief nudity, I would say, yes.
Yep. This apparently old slapper is discovered by Jonathan singing in the bath. Now, I'm not sure what age she was. She looked about the same age as Jonathan. She certainly wasn't old. I don't know if she was a slapper or not, but she wasn't old.
I'm pretty sure she was the same. I mean, the actress is the same age as the actor playing Jonathan. They went to university together, I understand. So, yeah, that's a bizarre comment. I wonder if it was recast.
Yeah, but if you recast it, it's easy to take out the word old.
Yeah, unless old slapper is a term that I just don't know.
I've never heard that myself unless you are old.
Yeah.
Anyway, just then, Klaus's air stewardess girlfriend, I think she's his girlfriend or current
paramour, yeah.
She returns home, and what happens?
Well, she was meant to be away for the weekend and her flights have been grounded, so she's excited to say they've got the weekend back. She hasn't bothered to call ahead to say she's coming, so I wonder if she thinks she might catch him in the act or up to no good.
Yeah.
Or maybe she doesn't think that at all. Maybe she just came back. Mm-hmm. In any event, Jonathan is pressed into action.
Yes, he is, pushed into action.
He's deposited at the other end of the bath.
Yep, so she comes up to give Adam a kiss, his girlfriend that is, and hears the noise in the bathroom. Adam opens the door and Jonathan is at the other end of the bath with his knees to his chest, looking very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't think the girlfriend would buy this for a second.
Why not?
Jonathan looks like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Yeah, and she must have an idea of...
Yeah, unless she wants to believe it, she might be able to persuade herself.
Yeah, perhaps. Over to the man's garage. Maddy's there.
She's embarrassing herself.
Yeah, she's trying to do her best job of Jonathan impersonating.
Well, this is it. She did this as well in the previous episode at the end of season 1, The House of Monkeys, where instead of being herself, she tries to impersonate Jonathan, and it doesn't work for her.
Yeah, she's pretending to look around and investigate things that are lying about as if she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, it's almost as if she doesn't think what she's good at is sufficient.
Yeah. What is she good at?
She's good at speaking to folk and getting them to give her information and finding things.
She's good at getting leads, I think. Getting in there and about it. She's far more proactive.
She's quite intuitive as well sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, she does the heavy lifting, the spade work, lets Jonathan get in and tidy up after.
Yeah, he's more abstract and she's maybe more on the human side of things.
I'm not sure. Jonathan maybe doesn't have the interpersonal skills, but I wouldn't necessarily say she's more human. She can be quite obnoxious, quite inconsiderate.
That's true.
Pushy.
She certainly has skills that she doesn't seem to think are sufficient because she keeps trying to do things that she's not able to do.
Lorna and Tom, they're looking on. And then Maddy stands on some empty paint cans, causing a shelf to collapse, and more paint tins and a hacksaw to fall on top of her.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, Tom is doubting her abilities or her relevance to the position.
He's not impressed.
No.
So, not knowing the real brains behind her solutions, Claythorne confidently tells the others not to underestimate her before they answer some simple questions, highlighting that no one could have escaped from the garage. So we're establishing here for our benefit.
Yeah, Lorna looks very different without her costume, and obviously as soon as she started gurning, I recognised her immediately, but it's like a different person from the night before.
Sure. Well, as you mentioned it, Lorna was played by Pippa Haywood, born in 1961, most famous for playing Mrs. British in the British Empire. Also starred in Tamara Drew, Scott and Bailey, Casualty, Prisoner's Wives, Mr. Selfridge, The Bill, Marple, Poirot, and Budgie, the Little Helicopter.
That was a good show. Was that the one that was written by
Yep.
Sarah?
Fergie.
Yeah.
Yep, when he was not managing Manchester United.
Yeah, of course, the British Empire was a great show.
Yeah, I loved it.
I think I must have watched all of it when it was on.
Yeah, I've been watching it recently. It's been on one, I think, Gold. It's been on. in the
Hold up,
mornings.
okay?
Yeah, still quite good.
Yeah, Chris Barry's a talented man.
Yeah, it's very good.
Anyway, Lorna has no memory of anything that happened in the garage, she says. If someone had left another way, Tom explains, security lights would have come on. But
Yeah.
he doesn't live there. How does he know?
Perhaps he's asked since the night before.
Or noticed on another occasion, I
Yeah.
guess.
I quite enjoyed Lorna trying to give Maddy information. All she could manage was a blub.
It was a bit weird.
It was weird, but I liked it.
Babbles incoherently. That's probably what the subtitles say.
So for a moment, Maddy is left on her own. And in the corner, she spots a puddle. She runs her hands across it.
A clue at last.
But just then, Drucker appears with some information.
Where the police dog peed on the floor. They didn't find anything either. Miss McGillen, right? Hal Drucker, personal security to Emma Lazarus for 13 years. Oh, I kind of funked it last night, didn't I?
Well, I don't suppose anyone's to blame for
Listen, I
what...
knew the guy was wacko when I told her.
Guy, Mr. Drucker?
It started about a year ago with a mushy fan mail. 3 or 4 a week. Never give a name, just signed himself your devoted disciple always. Pretty soon it's getting unhealthy. The guy's staking out her home. Just watching and staring. I try to get near him and he's gone, just like a jackrabbit. So next thing, he shows up here. England. I mean, come on, this is sick. You don't want to know what this individual's capable of. Well, last night we found out. And you want my honest opinion, what turns a man's brain like that? If we're talking who's to blame for the murder of Emma Lazarus? Sick breeds sick, Miss McGillen. And the sooner we face up to that, the sooner we can pull our society out of the sewer.
So as he leaves there, he hands over a copy of Emma Lazarus' last book. Now, that's a weird one, isn't it?
Well, first of all, why is he wandering around carrying the book?
Yep. But also, he seems morally outraged. I mean, she's what? A Stephen King-esque, a female Stephen King
just stories.
pulp horror nonsense. So why, if he is so against this, is he working for her?
Gets the money, I guess.
Yeah,
but I suppose,
you can't have that attitude about how the society's going to the dogs when you're...
yeah, it's one of the weird things that society does is ban books.
Yeah.
Oh, idea. You can't spread these ideas. What people think they're good ideas. So there's schools in America don't have Harry Potter because of witchcraft. Mm-hmm. It's just a silly story. Anyway.
Back over to the manse. And in fact, while we're here, did you recognise Hal Drucker?
No.
For me, someone from my childhood. No major roles, but I always remember him. In Superman 3, he was played by Gavin O'Herlihy.
Kavanaugh what?
O'Herlihy.
O'Herlihy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Born 1954. He's been in Willow, as I said before. Superman 3, played Brad. Now, Brad was the teenage rival of Clark Kent back in Smallville. And in Superman 3, he had grown up, became a drunk. There was a good scene with him and Richard Pryor, and there was a famous scene where Superman, tin-pin bowling, used his breath to destroy a lot of pins.
It's cheating.
It certainly was.
Bad guy.
Also in Never Say Never Again, Star Trek Voyager, Twin Peaks, the original run, Lonesome Dove, and one of my favourites, Death Wish 3. He played the main bad guy in
That's
that.
one of your favourite movies, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastically rotten, but it's brilliant fun.
Do you think Hal Drucker was related to HAL 9000?
No.
Okay.
But perhaps more interestingly, he played Chuck Cunningham in Happy Days.
Is that the brother of the other one?
Yeah, that's the thing. He was only in season 1. And then one day he went to college or whatever. I mean, he's never mentioned again. They decided they didn't want an older brother. Richie became there only was 2 of them. So they don't talk about him. He was written out. He comes from an acting family, which includes Cormac, Michael, and his father, Dan. Dan was a bad guy in Halloween 3.
Okay.
That's the best Halloween movie, Halloween 3.
Really?
A lot of people think it's the worst, but I think it's the best. And you might like this. He's Irish, by the way. Yeah. He was the Irish national tennis champion.
That's like saying that you're the Scottish national skiing champion.
No, it's like saying you're the Scottish national tennis champion just before or after Andy Murray. Okay,
Yeah.
Scotland, a dreadful nation at tennis, only had Andy Murray. Once he's gone, that'll be it. There's no other players coming through.
Yeah, I suppose they're like saying you're the Mexican golfing champion.
Yeah.
I don't know why Mexican, just don't know any famous Mexican golfers.
What you call him? Him that smoked the cigars, ponytail. See Spanish.
Yes, Jimenez.
Jimenez.
There was a Mexican guy whose name I forget got into the US Open recently, but he was a last minute substitute.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Where were we?
we're about to go to Tom explaining how he was incapacitated
Yes.
with a brilliant 90s throwback photo development in 1 hour.
Yeah, he hands over some snaps of them in fancy dress and explains how he was knocked out. And Maddy asks if she can hold on to the pictures.
Yeah, she's told not under no circumstances
Why
can she
not?
hold on, because it's the last photos of Emma alive, so Lorna wants them kept in the house.
Yeah, but I understand that. But you always got the negatives.
Yeah, why not give her the negatives to get another copy made?
Yeah.
Or keep the negatives, let her take those prints and get some, I don't know. That was always a way to relive a good night out, wasn't it, back in the 90s, when the photos came through 2 months later, whenever you got around to putting the film in.
Yeah. Claythorne, Stephen that is, says that he feels guilty for not being there. And amongst the pictures, Maddy notices a man who Tom explains was a Gerry Lobo who had been helping Emma with her newest books.
Yes, the autobiographies of her various existences.
Yeah, she was a reincarnationist.
Yeah, apparently.
And Lobo is meant to be an expert in this field.
Stephen's very understanding. He explains that everyone's looking for ways to explain the unexplainable. Which kind of sums up religion, doesn't it?
Yeah, he can't really have a go.
No.
So before Maddy leaves, she steals a picture of them as a group, and says that she has to run some things past an associate.
She does.
So where do we go?
The windmill.
Yeah, I love it at the windmill.
Yeah, go to see Windy Miller.
Maddy is trying to explain her problem to Jonathan, who is not as convinced of the impossibility of it all. And he's a demonstration to show this.
He's got a trick with an Armenian gymnast.
Yeah. Do you want to describe it or we'll just leave it?
It doesn't really matter. It's a trampoline. She jumps up eventually. She doesn't come back down.
Yeah, it's quite an elaborate mock-up. You could explain that with just talking about it, or you could have a pencil and a piece of paper and show how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Now, as Jonathan eats his Weetabix for his tea, Maddy mocks his irregularity.
We should probably, for people who aren't British, explain what he means by tea.
Yeah, it's not an expression I use. It's your dinner.
Yeah, I have used the expression, but yeah, your dinner, your evening meal.
She confirms to Jonathan that at the time of the picture, it was definitely Tom in the skeleton costume, so they know that for sure. And then ponders the paint tins being empty.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the empty paint tins later on. I think also in this exchange, Weetabix is known for keeping your bowels regular.
Well, she says that herself, doesn't she?
Yeah, and Jonathan suggests that perhaps Maddy has an issue with that. She claims she hasn't, but...
This is Sherlock-esque type of
Really?
figuring things out. You don't think so?
No, I think We have seen, just in this episode, she eats chocolate at night. She puts it all away. I don't think she's got a healthy movement.
Yeah, but if he's identified a specific problem based on whatever her gait or her manner or something.
No, I think it's what she eats and her lifestyle.
Alright, so he's just suggesting that she's so unhealthy that she can't possibly be regular.
Well, I think the rubbish she eats and the amount of it, that it can't be a... It doesn't look as if she eats a lot of bran.
No,
but grains.
Yeah. It's not something I've really thought a lot about. She is going to see Lobo, so she works out where Jonathan's going to be. Later on, he's heading to the theatre, and he warns her not to listen to Lobo's spiel.
Yeah. Any of his bollocks, I think he says.
We go to Lobo's sanctuary and Maddy's not taking this advice.
What we should say is when Jonathan warns her, she is quite righteous and demands some credit for having common sense. And we cut to her the next scene
in a tank.
But in fairness, we think that she's going to be, or perhaps you're meant to think that she's going to be suckered into this.
Yeah.
But she rightly has no time for this nonsense.
Yeah, no, she's just seeing what it's like, I think. He puts some sort of black ooze into the water and talks about a void of darkness.
Yeah, talking garbage. So we head down to the restaurant. I think this must be in some sort of clinic.
Yeah.
He talks more nonsense and he tries to sleaze over a little bit, I think. But in fairness, she does see right through this crap. Before reacting in disgust to what?
Well, when she was coming in, she was making comments about squid ink and stuff. And then it appears that the waiter has taken that as an order and serves her octopus in ink.
Poached octopus. It looks like intestines.
Yeah, I mean, I like a bit of octopus, but not served whole.
No. So she at first pretends that this is disgusting. There's no chance she's going to eat it. But when he's about to take it away, she says, oh, well, whilst it's here, just leave it.
Yeah.
And she digs in. So he continues with his horrific shtick and finishes by claiming that Lazarus herself did not expect to be alive for much longer.
This is bizarre because he's just basically making this up and Maddy buys it completely and then it turns out to be right. Because it's not something she said, he just gets a feeling from Emma that she wasn't going to be around. And then Maddy's like, oh yeah, that's right. And then it is right.
Yeah, but he is just saying that after the fact that she's dead now.
Yeah.
So he is saying that knowing that he's apparently been proven to be right.
Yes.
So from his point of view, there's nothing magical. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah. She's died, so he's now saying, oh yeah, I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Because he's that sort of...
con man.
Yes, that's almost exactly what I was going to say.
Did you recognise him?
Of course I did.
Gary Lobo was played by Jimmy Harkishin. Born in 1965, most famous for playing Dev in Coronation Street over here.
About 1 million episodes.
Yeah, well, 900 odd.
Yeah.
Also in East is East, that's a funny movie.
Not seen that.
Medics, The Bill and Casualty.
I think there's a stage show of East is East now.
Is there?
Not seen that either.
No. Where do we go next?
To the theatre. I think it's a rehearsal setup. We've obviously learned their lessons for budgeting by not showing the actual show. But Maddy has taken this line from Lobo, which has been presented with hindsight, and is running with it. She now thinks Emma knew the killer, and it's not the stalker because that's too obvious.
Yes, probably should be the stalker.
Well, it's not very joined up thinking, is it? It's just assumption and guesswork.
Did you like the semi-naked workman zipping by on a wire as they're having a chat?
Yeah, just random.
So she says to Jonathan that the real puzzle now is how the skeleton escaped the garage, and is shocked when Jonathan claims what?
He already knows that. He's figured that out. There's only one possibility.
Yeah, he says that's the easy bit, based on the assumption that everything he's been told so far has been accurate. That's very Sherlock Holmes. He's not even there. He's just been given this information and he can work it all out.
Yeah, he draws particular attention, or she does, to the paint tins and the hacksaw.
Yes, and he's about to start to tell her how to approach the solution, but they're interrupted.
Bridget shows up.
Yes, the singing bather. She says hi and reminds them what they got up to earlier.
Yeah, so Maddy's now aware of what Jonathan's been doing.
Yeah, and he tries to explain it, and the camera's focused very closely on him. It's a narrow shot, and when it pulls back out...
She's left.
Down in the dressing room, Adam tells Jonathan that Bridget is doing what?
She's blackmailing him. She wants... she doesn't want money. She wants 15 minutes a night on the tour to sing, or she's going to the press with drawings of their one-night stand.
Yeah, I think Jonathan has a glance through these drawings and is quite disturbed by what's in them.
Absolutely. Adam wants Jonathan to go to Bridget and essentially find out how much it's going to take to pay her off and then do it.
Yeah, so that's where we go next, to Bridget's house. Jonathan is accosted by a fan-wielding child as he unsuccessfully tries to buy her off.
Yeah, this kid appears interested in anything with spinning blades, so he goes from the fan to the waste extraction system to a blender.
Bridget is adamant that she doesn't want any money, just a chance to kickstart her career.
Yeah, she says something along the lines of, put yourself in my shoes, and that kicks off a marble rolling around Jonathan's brain.
Well, I think she mentions her missing shoes.
That's it. I just had a note of shoes.
Yeah, I think perhaps the kids moved them or something. And this, starts
That's
this marble.
Right. That's what happens, yes. The marble rolls and the mention of shoes.
Back over to the manse, and during the night we have another point of view shot of someone viewing the coffin. So the coffin is lying in the house overnight.
And at this point, Lorna's also waking up upstairs and coming down for some water, it seems.
Mm-hmm. She sees the coffin has been disturbed and pushes back the lid.
Yes, the head's been removed and she is terrified.
That's your mother.
Yes.
You're already extremely distressed.
Yes.
And you have to open up the coffin, and it was you see it for a few seconds, and you see
it's quite gory.
Very gory for the type of show.
Yeah.
The next morning, in the garage,
Jonathan's shown up now.
He is, and as Claythorne offers his disbelief about what has happened, he stops when they find Jonathan removing a paint tin from the shelf.
Yeah. You wonder what Jonathan's looking for. It seemed like he had some kind of an epiphany.
Yeah, so he looks into them and he is surprised at the contents. He appears to find some sort of powder or something.
Something in the
remnants. Claythorne advises that Lorna can be found at the little bungalow at the foot of their garden.
Yes, visiting a Mr. Snitterton.
Yep, I didn't take a note of that name. I thought you would.
I've written it a few times.
Yeah, he's an elderly gentleman who she's been keeping an eye on. I think he's just out of hospital.
Yes.
So down to Snitterton's bungalow.
He's died.
Yeah, it's bad news.
And miraculously has given Lorna some critical information for the investigation. This is the moment at which I thought I'd figure out what happened.
Before we go on to that, let's just quickly summarise what's happened here. So we see Lorna holding the withered dead hand of the neighbour, and I think we've got a nice shot of, I really like it, of Jonathan and Maddy arriving outside and coming in.
Yes, it's a big front window.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a tracking shot or what the technical term is, but it's a
panning.
I thought it was nice.
Yeah, okay. We had that in Reconstituted Corpse.
We did.
Tell the difference now.
So they arrive and they start to ask a few questions, but are disturbed to find out that he is no longer.
Yes, Jonathan notices a letter at some point in this conversation in the house.
Yeah, it was apparently for a minor wart removal from the hospital. That was
Yeah, and now he's dead.
Ah. And Lorna goes on to explain why she was there. Apparently, he had noted a skeleton running towards the river on the night of the murder. Very convenient. Now, you said at this point, you worked out what had happened.
I had a theory.
Yeah. I have to say that this is the first time, one of the few times, that I was able, whilst watching it live, as it were, back 20 years ago, that I was able to work out what had happened. Not the motive or anything, but how they escaped from the garage. And I used the logic, I suppose, of previous Jonathan Creek episodes and a bit of Sherlock Holmes. When you work out what couldn't have happened, then there really only was one answer.
Did you think Lorna killed Snitterton? First time you watched it?
I can't remember what I thought back then. Possibly.
I thought she'd killed him.
Yeah, perhaps he had been a witness or something.
Certainly allowed her to give this evidence that could not then be contradicted.
Yeah, I think that was probably meant to be one of the red herrings in there. Back to the windmill.
It appears that Maddy is once again unreasonably upset about Jonathan's activities with other women.
Yeah, I mean, we see this over the course of the relationship where they've not committed, but I think in fact next week's episode we get an even...
Yeah, I've not seen that yet.
Yeah, an even more obvious example of this.
Yeah, so she's upset and he thinks that she's not been to the toilet for a few days. She kind of denies it, then counts the days on her fingers as she turns away.
So she changes the subject and asks for an explanation as to what has happened and claims that this is a bit where he enjoys treating her like a moron.
Well, he explains that's not the case. This is the bit where she enjoys making him feel like he's treating her like a moron because she can't be bothered figuring it out for herself.
So he asks her, how many people walked into the garage?
And she says 2.
He says, no. How many people walked in?
1 with one over his shoulder.
And how much of the one over the shoulder could be seen?
Yeah.
Not that much. Maddy suddenly gets it.
Yes.
The body over the shoulder was a dummy, and that she was in fact the skeleton.
Maddy.
Yes.
That's a major twist.
Very major. She couldn't remember what happened, and it's all about hypnosis and etc.
Past lives. Lorna was the skeleton, and Jonathan's figured this all out.
Yes, he admits to being impressed by the planning and details exactly what happened.
To pull off a trick this good, you'd have to go to a hell of a lot of trouble. Lorna Claythorne and the killer had to be in on it together. When she made a break for it, and he knocked her out, all a carefully choreographed fake, she wasn't unconscious at all.
Bring the car to the door. Leave the keys in the ignition. Do it!
And when the key witness, Mr. Drucker, was ordered to go out and get the car, that's when they pulled the switch. Little electronic mouthpiece distorts the voice so much it could be anyone. So that when the skeleton appears outside the front door, it's now Lorna inside. And what we thought was Lorna's body is just a foam rubber shape with her dress and shoes and wig on. Once the door's closed, the costume comes off. She puts her own gear back on. Now she's got a foam rubber body and a skeleton suit to dispose of. Hacksaw's nice and handy. She cuts it all up into bits. Hides my way out of sight. Figuring correctly that people are hardly going to open the paint tin to look for a murderer. Next morning, no one's about. The evidence is removed and disposed of, leaving nothing behind but a few rubber crumbs.
I said at the top of the podcast I really enjoyed this episode. I do, however, have one problem with this whole solution.
Okay.
It's quite a big one, I think.
On you go.
Very, very fortuitous that the garage contained so many empty paint tins. I'm not sure why that would be the case.
Also, the fact the garage is otherwise spotless.
Yeah.
And it's used for the car.
Uh-huh.
So what are the paint tins doing there, and why is there nothing else? If they've cleared out everything else, why didn't they clear out the paint tins? And if they haven't cleared things out, then why is there nothing else there?
Precisely. It's just too convenient to the plot.
Yeah. I mean, you can understand if there's like boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Well, I think that would have been what he should have done. Now, I'm not telling David Rennick how to write an episode, but if you're listening, Dave...
The problem then, though, is the police might search boxes if there's potentially room for a person.
Yeah, that's fine. So what you would have, what should have happened is there should have been boxes
and paint
tins, and you go, look in the boxes, they're empty, we won't bother searching the paint tins. But it would have been consistent with a reasonably messy garage.
Yeah, and also, if she's hacksawing up this rubber body, why is there only bits of rubber in the paint tins? Why is there none on the ground?
Yeah, and also, why is there a hacksaw sitting there?
Yeah, paint tins and a hacksaw conveniently. Yeah, it's almost as if it was designed for this purpose.
Yeah.
It's like, what do we need in the garage for this case, but nothing else?
So yeah, there should have been a little bit more...
additional tools. A ladder, maybe.
Yeah, other things you would normally find in the garage.
Yeah.
Anyway, a minor complaint.
Quibble.
Yeah.
Maddy and Jonathan go on to talk about Snitterton. Jonathan's got an idea, so Maddy's going to ring the doctor in the morning.
Yeah, but before that, Maddy wants to know who was in it with Lorna, because Jonathan mentioned that.
They don't conclude here who was in it with Lorna, do they?
They don't know. And at this point, Jonathan looks at the picture, and he states that it would be unlikely for someone to have come in from the rain and get dressed into that skeleton costume. He says also, I think that the shoes were built into it.
Yes.
So it's not a type of thing you would quickly throw on.
Unless you had somewhere to put your shoes.
Correct. So Maddy wants to know how they're going to nail such a clever cookie, but Jonathan doesn't think she is that smart and says that the neighbour story is obviously gobshite.
Yeah, which is not how that word means.
That's not what that word means, but it was Maddy that says that.
Yeah, it doesn't. But yeah, it's still that's not what it means.
No. You are a gobshite.
You can be one. It's not a.
Yeah. You would talk shite, you wouldn't talk gobshite. So Jonathan suggests that Maddy rings the hospital as soon as possible and speaks with the doctor who removed the wart.
And this is another thing. How does he know where this wart was? If they have to ring to confirm it, they can't know for sure.
No, but in the letter, maybe it was indicated in the letter.
Also, if you needed surgery rather than just getting it done at your GP.
Yes, perhaps you're thinking to yourself, well, to be honest, I didn't even know you could have a wart in your throat.
Yeah, I thought you'd like nodules and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, back over to Maddy's flat, and with some howling at the moon going on, Maddy jumps as she reads Lazarus's latest novel in bed at night.
As far as I could tell, she was still reading like the chapter titles or something because she'd only got about 2 pages into the book. And Owl makes a noise and she's terrified already.
The next morning, she admits to Jonathan on the phone that
the book was a laxative, yeah.
Yeah, sorted out her troubles and perhaps Weetabix might no longer be required.
She's also spoken to the hospital.
And he tells her he thinks he has finally worked out a complete solution.
So we go to our grand finale.
Where is that?
Down the church.
It's the service for Lazarus. Maddy and Jonathan speak to Claythorne after this memorial service as Lorna and Tom look on and the press pack are there.
Yeah, so they want to go somewhere private. It looked to me like they end up in the middle of a graveyard.
Yeah, the graveyard in the church.
Yeah. Spooky.
I like a graveyard. In fact, I love a graveyard. As I was going to say a kid there, that sounds like I'm an oddball. When I was younger, don't get as much time these days.
To go to graveyards?
Yeah, but they're fascinating places. Some of the older ones as well, where you can see people that have, died in the 1700s and things like that.
A pirate, famously a pirate grave in the town that I'm from.
Yeah? Who's a pirate?
I can't remember his name.
Not a famous pirate, just a pirate.
But, well, he's not a famous pirate, but there's a symbol on the gravestone that shows he was a pirate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're fascinating.
Anyhow, Maddy begins the explanation here.
Yes, she tells them that they know Lorna planned it all with the killer, and that they know what they did.
Stephen is not happy at this suggestion. He thinks that maybe he's been taken for a ride by these so-called investigators.
But Jonathan has further evidence and tells them about the neighbour's wart. Now, what was that?
The wart was in his vocal cords, and he could not possibly have spoken at the time Lorna reported him to have spoken.
Correct. So at this, Lorna opens up.
He'd already passed away before I got there. I suppose when I saw you coming up the path, I just thought maybe I could. Oh, God, forgive me.
Forgive you both, Mrs. Claythorne. You and your stepfather.
Tell me this is some baseless fabrication.
No one came through those windows. No one knocked you out. No one else put on your costume. Because it was you that went upstairs, shot your wife, and staged this elaborate piece of theatre with your stepdaughter.
Of course, the idea was for Lorna to drive away in the car, so she'd eventually be found on her own in the back. When that all went wrong,
You had to improvise. Problem with the garage was it left us with an impossible vanishing act, which had never been part of the plan.
In God's name, Lorna, how could the two of you conceive anything so monstrous?
Yes, I suspect the answer to that is they didn't.
Yeah, it was Emma's idea. So I initially assumed that Maddy was going to say they had taken it from her book.
Yeah.
That they'd been inspired by something she'd written, but not that it was her idea. Essentially because she wanted to kill herself, but didn't want to cut off the life insurance and the advance on her novels.
Yeah, I mean, we discovered that the motive... So we discovered the motive. Lazarus was dying from a tumour or brain cancer or something, and did not want to suffer, or they did not want her to suffer.
Yeah, and if she killed herself, she would forego any, or her family would lose out on any payout from life insurance, and also the advance had been paid for these autobiographies.
Yeah. Reminds me of Fletch.
Yeah. They're not proud of what they've done.
No, they're not. We see an emotional flashback as Tom shoots his wife with a tear in his eye.
But she looks sort of peaceful, doesn't she? She's happy this is happening.
Yeah, she's got a look. I don't think she says thank you, but she's got a look that says thank you.
Yeah.
And he does admit to the colder aspects of the crime, as you mentioned there. It wasn't just to relieve her of suffering. He also wanted to consider the book sales and the life insurance.
Yeah. And he mentions that Emma, had to wear down their opposition to the plan. Stephen is furious.
He is. He's not easily persuaded as to the ethical and moral defence, but eventually does grab and hug his wife.
Well, I think he's got a natural empathy with his wife.
He's a decent fellow.
It does leave the question of the missing head.
We'll get to that in a second. But before we do, Tom Teresi was played by Mark Cavan, born in 1960, known for I Love Mummy, The Timber, Unnatural Acts. I assume that is on screen, not police records. The Glam Metal Detective was Executive Stress, and he was in Superman 4. So we've got 2 Superman actors in this episode. Yeah, so you were saying, what is the final question we have?
Well, the head that was stolen, it's kind of brushed over a bit. They mention it. They say, Jonathan's, yeah, I know who took that. It was the stalker. Yeah. You see the stalker, how did he get it on a plane? This is clearly pre-9/11.
No, it's nothing to do with 9/11. You could not walk in with that head in a box before 9/11.
Sure?
Security wasn't so lax back then. You still had to go through metal detectors and scanners.
Someone might have noticed that he had a head.
Yes.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Also the fact that nobody seems to care and nobody's investigating the missing head.
Yeah. I mean, we see him on the plane, he's clutching this in a box, and one of the stewards tries to take it from him to put it...
Yeah, and eventually he agrees to put it up in the bin himself.
Yeah, but the way he was acting, not the bin.
It's very suspicious.
Do you see the bin?
The luggage bin.
Not a bin.
Whatever you want to call it.
Overhead compartment, yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, eventually, but if you've got a head in a box, you don't make a scene, I would suggest.
Yeah, no, you probably would act much more calmly.
Yeah.
But he's not a rational man, it seems.
He's not. And we have an epilogue this week in a restaurant. What happens?
Well, Adam is hearing this story from Maddy and Jonathan, and he is quite excited by it. He's talking about film rights, and he gets a nasty surprise.
What's that?
Bridget shows up.
Yes, apparently an arrogant little witch.
Yeah, Maddy thinks he's talking about her initially, and then realises it's not. So she goes over and just sorts it out very quickly, and Bridget leaves.
Yeah, but before that, Jonathan has to admit to failing in his attempt to buy her off.
He offered double what Adam said he could, and it wasn't enough.
So Maddy comes back. They're shocked. She walked away without any fuss, and Klaus asks her what she said.
Yeah, and she explains that she told Bridget that her career would not benefit from being associated with such an odious slimeball, and to suck up every penny she can get, and the cheque would be in the post. Adam's delighted. Yeah,
he takes this as a joke, but we see a look between Jonathan and Maddy, which suggests they both know it was the truth.
Absolutely.
While we're talking about Adam there, we're going to talk about him in the future. He's obviously, Klaus was played by a different character, Stuart Milligan. So we'll chat about him in a future episode.
I think we'll have 1 or 2 opportunities.
Okay, that's us then.
Yeah, I think it was a good episode. Quite enjoyed the mystery. It was good to kind of pick it for once.
Mm-hmm.
Although the fact that we both managed to do that maybe suggests there was the kind of, because Jonathan's holding Maddy's hand a little bit, it kind of leads the audience, I think, along in this episode. I don't think it was that the mystery was easier. I think it's the way it was presented was more solvable.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's criticism they'd had, because we talked about this in previous episodes where it wasn't possible to figure out what had happened because they didn't give you enough information.
Mm-hmm.
This is maybe slightly the other way.
Yeah, they're saying, look, if you use some logic, you should be able to work this one out.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun though.
Yeah, I think, like I said at the start, I enjoyed the score, the music, the organs and the lightning, etc. The soundtrack was
good.
I thought everyone had a lot of fun doing it. I liked Drucker.
Definitely.
Mrs. Brittas was good. Dev making an appearance.
Yep, the Doctor, everything.
Yeah, a bit of chemistry between Maddy and Jonathan again this week.
And even the new Adam, a bit different, but still interesting.
Oh, I think he slid right into that role. It wasn't someone who you immediately looked at and thought, that he can't play that role.
Yeah.
He's obviously very very suitable for it.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys listening have any ideas about how solvable the case was, or when you got it, or if you got it, or if you've got any other ideas, come and talk to us about it on jonathancreekpodcast.com. There'll be a post up for this episode by now, and hopefully there'll be plenty of folk having a chat. It was quite an interesting one, I think.
Anywhere else people can get in touch?
Yeah, on social media we're at Creek Podcast on both Facebook and Twitter, and if they want to help us out, they should head over to Apple Podcasts/iTunes and rate, review and subscribe to the show, even if that's not how they listen, because that helps others find us.
Looking through here to see if I've missed anything else. Let me see. Okay, well, production information. This episode was first broadcast 24th of January 1988 at the 50 minutes, I think 49 minutes or something
It's
like
not
that.
quite Halloween, is it?
No, shorter than season 1. We didn't mention that. So season 1 was, apart from the initial episode, we're coming in at 60 minutes or so.
About 10 minutes off.
Yeah. Bridget. She was played by Martina Laird, born in 1971, known for Jericho, Blitz, that's a good Jason Statham movie. Coronation Street, EastEnders, Casualty, Casualty at Holby City, Doctors, Holby City, and The Bill.
Yeah, I think she's a long-running Casualty character.
I believe so. Frankie Park played Tessa. That was the stewardess. That was Adam's girlfriend. She has been in The Bill, The Comic Strip Presents, and The Man from Auntie. But interestingly, was married to Nigel Planer from 1999 until 2003.
There you go. 2 Jonathan Creek guest stars, married shortly afterwards. It's pretty interesting.
What else do I have? Well, one thing I've already mentioned. Apparently, David Rennick played the distorted voice.
Okay.
And when Claythorne sits down in Maddy's flat, above his head, you see a police sign.
Like the TARDIS.
Just like the TARDIS.
Okay.
Before we go on to the episode review, we've got Time Waits for Norman. That's coming up in 2 weeks' time.
Look forward to that.
Ready for the review?
Sure.
Motive.
End suffering plus maintain cash benefits.
Yep. Compassion and financial. The Alibi.
Victims.
Clues. Will I run through them?
Okay.
So you have the voice disguiser itself, the paint tins obviously, the hacksaw, the shoes, the rubber crumbs in the paint tins, the neighbour apparently seeing the skeleton and telling Lorna, the design of the skeleton costume itself. I think that's all I have.
Well, unless you want to include Gary Lobo saying that she knew she was going to die.
I don't want to include that, no.
Okay.
The gotcha. Yeah, it's not a very precise gotcha, but I think it was the warped man apparently talking.
Yeah, and also the logical fact that nobody could have got out of that garage.
Anything to add?
No.
No?
No, I'm done. I'm finished for this week. Absolutely done. Completely and utterly gone.
Like a burst couch.
Something along those lines.
Gubbed.
That's the one.
Let's wrap up then.
Okay, well, we'll see folk in a couple of weeks, and in the meantime, if you want to hear more from us about the Blackadder podcast in the intervening weeks.
Cheerio.
Bye.